next thing on the agenda, and I haven't forgotten about you. I had been asked for a review of the 25-year plan that basically we're running our operations from. 25-year plan was adopted by the board in 2012, and we received a charge from the board to complete a comprehensive review of the city, the facilities in the district, and come up with a plan for the next 25 years and how we were going to maintain them. The criteria that was set out was it needed to be economically viable, reduce deferred maintenance, minimize attendance boundary disruptions, minimize staffing implications, and create adequate educational space, be ADA compliant, increase security, and have a safe traffic flow on the sites. Really the pieces that we've looked at really revolve around Silverbrook and the reconfiguration of the district. We provided 3 options to the board. At the time, the board selected option 2, and most of you know the history behind this one, where we now have K4 district, a 5-6 intermediate building, 7-8 middle school, and then the high school. And then also, with the reconfiguration and addition, Barton would be, well, again, an old slide, raised, it's going to be sold. Hopefully that will take place this coming summer. And approximately 10 years from that date, we end up with a new Jackson.
Can I ask you a question about that, Barton?
Yes.
So I talked to somebody in Barton who's apparently knows everything about Barton, and he said that in the referendum that there was $450,000 as part of the referendum to raise Badger, to raise Barton Elementary. Since Barton Elementary is going to be sold, what happened to that $450,000 in the referendum?
I don't believe there was ever 450 to raise Barton. I could go back and look, but I don't believe that's the case.
I don't know, so
Yeah.
I told him I'd ask.
I'm 99.9% sure that that is not the case.
Okay.
That's one thing, when you say you're going to do something in a referendum, you have to do it. So you're pretty much committed to it.
So when you say you have to do something in a referendum, then you have to do it?
For the most part, yeah.
But what about in Kewaskum, where they said they were going to save the middle school and remodel it, and then after it passed? Because then I forgot your name.
We can talk about this issue later. You and I have talked about this for a year. We can talk about the Kewaskum story.
Well, no, but I just want to know how it pertains, because now you're here working.
It's called purpose language, and the language in the referendum, as attorneys draw it up, is defining what the dollars can be used for, and that's what it's doing. It doesn't say you have to do it. The board
That's
still
what they just said.
The board has the decision on how those dollars are spent. It does say what you can't do. You couldn't say we are going to build a new Jackson, pass the referendum, and then I'll use an extreme on purpose, go build a big swimming pool somewhere in the school district. That you legally cannot do. Again, not an attorney, but I don't believe you can do that. So the dollars can only be expended for things that are in the purpose language of the referendum, which Kewaskum's is in compliance with.
Okay, so in terms of economic viability, some of the numbers that were brought out in the plan, we were looking at about over 25 years with the planned maintenance, new construction, and remodel and replace was about $81 million. That number, I think, is actually probably pretty light. In the 25-year plan, I think the real downfall with it is, and it's something that I've got to look at, is we did not include any inflation in there. Right now, inflation in the construction industry is running at about 8%. So it tends to go up rather quickly. We addressed all this, the plan addressed all the space issues. Again, we looked at the high school and tried to come up with some alternative learning space and ADA compliance. I don't know if I would say that it's in a timely fashion, considering the fact the ADA became law in, I believe, 1991. Our operating costs, with the reconfiguration, our operating costs went down with the added benefit that we were actually able to add more program into the district. In terms of operating costs, the other item that was big on the list was to look at air conditioning at all buildings and make sure that that was in place. Because of the redistricting and the slight boundary changes, we had a savings in busing, and we had, one of the things that we're always fighting with is trying to make sure that our planned maintenance keeps up with our capital budget, which at that point it was forecast to be, we were looking pretty good. I'll show you a little bit later one of the sheets that I actually work off, and you can actually see what's happening. In terms of curricular improvements, these are the items that we were looking at in terms of the long-term space needs of the district. I don't think that anyone would really argue that we have space issues. We have configuration and aging building issues more than anything else. The way that it'll become a space issue is simply because the standards from 1955 have changed from then until 2017. We really, every capital project that we do, we put in a list that goes to the board for approval, and that's actually going to be happening probably next month. And every item that was on that 25-year plan, we try to include on that list, and we let the board know whether it was on the list or if it was something that came along after the fact. So they know, and again, we try to keep things fairly level and stick to the plan. We really manage to the plan. In terms of a timeline, what the original plan called for was a new Jackson in 1920, which is kind of on the timeline that we're on right now.
1920?
19/20, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was speaking school language again. You know, we're looking a few years out from now. This item with the addition at Decorah, quite frankly, that's off the list now. And looking at that, doesn't make any sense whatsoever to do that. We can maintain what we have and carry on. The nice thing about the 25-year plan is that it is a living document, and we do try to keep up with it and keep adding to it and taking things off and reevaluating things as we go along.
Because there's not 575 students at Jackson though, right? Isn't there like
No.
370 or something?
Right now there's 370, and that, again, that was 5 years ago, so.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So with this plan that you did, or the 25-year plan, how did you, I mean, and it's a dumb question maybe, but it's finance, so I don't get it. How did you plan for the increases in the budget in the 25-year plan? Or is it planning on doing referendums to?
No, several years ago, and again, I'm going to preface all of this by saying there was no inflation built into these numbers. The board committed to spending, it was actually the year before I got here, to spending $1 million per year on capital improvements, and to increase that by 4% every year after that, until the 2018, 2019 school year, and then things would level off at about 1.4 million per year. So that's how we plan for it. And then, you know, again, once we got over the hump, and we've taken care of all the deferred maintenance and deferred at both Silverbrook and at Jackson, Barton has come offline. Badger's in really good shape, although it's getting to the, you know, I misspoke, it was actually 2010 that it came online. So we're 8-9 years. There are things that are starting to need replacing over there. It's nothing drastic, but again, it's not something that you want to let go. You want to keep that in really good shape. So that's, I hope I've answered your question.
So you have a basis right now already of 1.4 million.
Yes.
Already projected, but then where did the 1.4 million go from Barton then?
1.4 from.
You said like in 20.
What happens is if you've got $1 million to spend every year and you have $3 million worth of projects, you still have $2 million worth of projects left over. So that backs up into the next year. and again, I'll show you on a spreadsheet that I use to manage this. Things keep getting pushed back. There's more needs out there right now than there are dollars to meet them.
Okay.
So,
Dave, can I ask a quick clarification? You, as a district, and I don't know this for sure, have not